I'll always remember that day. There was a huge storm. One of our animal services officers rushed into the clinic with a dog in her arms. The dog was soaking wet and cold and dirty, but he was alive. San Jose police officers had found Mr. Snuggles being attacked by 2 large dogs. The officers were able to scare off the large dogs and called San Jose Animal Services to help Mr. Snuggles. During the attack, the dogs had ripped open the muscles of Mr. Snuggles' abdomen. His intestines could be felt just below the surface of his bruised skin. There wasn't any feeling or movement in his left hind leg. There wasn't even a pulse. We think Mr. Snuggles must have fought back because his large canine tooth was ripped from the socket. I remember my team members and volunteers looking on as I examined Mr. Snuggles. I'm sure they could see from the look on my face. I wasn't sure he would make it. The next day we anesthetized Mr. Snuggles for surgery to explore his injuries. It was hard. But that morning I remember telling my team that if his internal injuries were too extensive, we should be prepared to euthanize him on the surgery table. No one ever wants to give up, but sometimes things are beyond our abilities as doctors. When we shaved Mr. Snuggles' belly, the amount of bruising was far worse than we had imagined. We could even see teeth marks in his skin from his attackers. We removed the large canine tooth that was barely attached at that point, as well as a few adjacent teeth that were also compromised, and surgically closed the area to allow it to heal. Everyone was so nervous as we moved into the operating room and prepared him for surgery. We didn't know what to expect. Right after cutting through his skin, we saw his intestines, which had been punctured during the attack. I sewed up the hole and kept looking for injuries. There was still no pulse in the left hind leg, and the blood vessels appeared to be compromised. There was so much damage, but fortunately nothing that overtly indicated he needed to be euthanized. Mr. Snuggles was going to lose that leg, but not today. Today we needed to repair that giant hole in his abdomen. Unfortunately, the muscles had been so badly shredded that there was very little to work with. Yet somehow I managed to do it. As soon as he was sewn up, we moved him to a warm recovery bed, where we shaved his matted, dirty hair and eagerly waited for him to wake up. We knew Mr. Snuggles had a long road to recovery ahead of him, so we looked for rescues to take on his care. Weeks went by, but no one came for him. Fortunately, a lot happened during those weeks. A few days after his surgery, his left hind leg was no longer cold to the touch, and the bruising was going down. We started to have hope that maybe he wouldn't need an amputation after all. A few days later, we found Mr. Snuggles standing, using all 4 legs.
Look at you standing, buddy! You're standing! Yeah! There you go. I know, that was so hard. Good job, bud. Good job.
A week later, I stopped by his kennel to check on him, and he was looking pretty good, so I decided to see how he would do with walking. I was astonished. He walked as if he had never been injured. I remember a staff member tearing up when we told her that the dog walking around was Mr. Snuggles. No one recognized him as we walked around the shelter, probably because no one ever expected him to use that leg again. But I guess that's the thing about working with animals. They always surprise you.